Hello and welcome everybody to today's edition of Mexico News Network's Breaking News Business. I'm your host, Elliot Bullman. Remember to follow us on all our social networks and to catch us every day by logging onto our website, mexiconewsnetwork.com, for relevant stories and news. Let's start with today's show. The host of the 2026 FIFA World Cup won't be officially announced until 2020, but it's starting to look more likely that it could be co-hosted by Mexico and the United States. On October the 14th, FIFA's governing council voted to ban countries in Europe and Asia from hosting the 2026 World Cup. The 2018 World Cup will be held in Russia, and the 2022 tournament we know will be held in Qatar. In May, ESPN FC reported that football officials from the US and Mexico were in talks to submit a joint bid to host the 2026 World Cup. That report also said that a joint bid from the two countries had the support of FIFA President Gianni Infantino. A North American bid with the US, Mexico, and Canada as joint hosts has also been suggested. South American nations can still bid for the 2026 World Cup. However, the 2014 World Cup was held in Brazil, and Uruguay is considered a favourite to host the 2030 World Cup, possibly in a joint bid with Argentina. In January, FIFA will vote on expanding the World Cup to 40 or 48 countries. A larger tournament would limit the number of countries that could host the tournament. As a result, joint bids may become more common. Japan and South Korea hosted the World Cup in 2002. The last tournament in 2014 added nearly $30 billion to Brazil's GDP between 2010 and 2014 and generated 3.63 million jobs per year, as well as raised an additional $8 billion in tax revenues. FIFA's showcase attracted an additional 3.7 million tourists to the country, each of whom spent an average of $2,488. Moving on. Mexico's Southeastern chain of family-run gas stations, FullGas, has announced that it seeks to bring the Chevron-Texaco brand to Mexico for the second half of 2017 with the transformation of its service stations to comply with the most efficient technology. Company director Sebastian Figueroa confirmed that FullGas currently operates 50 gas stations in Mexico and has 10 more under construction, plus 30 distributed throughout Guatemala and Honduras. The medium-term goal, however, is to increase their presence in Mexico by reaching 200 units. According to Figueroa, the company is currently in a process of market research, profile valuation of current gas stations and those under construction to see which ones qualify to operate under the Chevron-Texaco brand. We believe that Texaco can compete strongly, and especially many entrepreneurs are recognizing the price, economies of scale, which will be important, but the technology will make a turning point in open markets, he claimed. I know that Chevron is working very hard in the area of infrastructure. They have 2 refineries nearby, so I guess they're working to see what the best option for gasoline imported into Mexico is, and will be settling in the short or medium term, Figueroa said. He also added that the first franchise in the state of Mexico will open in November, which begins the company's expansion to the central region of the country, one of the markets with the highest demand for fuel. Baja California and Nuevo León also appear attractive for the national expansion rollout, with up to 10 new gas stations added per year. The cost of acquiring a franchise is in the region of $1 million. In other headlines, in the context of literal life and death, in order to have flexibility and choices, especially during life's inevitable speed bumps, it helps to have your finances squared away. Women in Mexico, however, are still lagging way behind men when it comes to saving for their golden years and are at greater risk of poverty, according to Amafore. Women need to save more money than men. You've heard it before, but it's worth saying again and again. Women live longer than men. According to INEGI's 2014 study, women in Mexico are expected to live to 77.5 years, compared to 72.1 for men. Therefore, to support themselves in old age, women need to save more than men, especially because they tend to outlive their partners. However, Mexican women today are retiring with only 2/3 of the assets of men, according to the president of Merrill Lynch Global Wealth and Investment Management, Sally Krawcheck. Women have unique challenges to finding the money to save. Women are still doing twice the housework and 3 times the childcare of men. Simply finding the time to focus on finances is a serious challenge. According to the study Ahorro y Futuro, un perspectivo de género, 43% of women still believe their spouse is responsible for providing the economic means for their retirement. As an added headwind, women are not asking for pay rises at the same rate as men. Asking for it, financially speaking, is a matter Mexican women struggle with, yet need to overcome. Also, pay inequality in Mexico puts women at greater risk of poverty. According to PricewaterhouseCoopers, 56% of women surveyed stated that men earn more money than them for undertaking the same job or responsibility. And when women step out of the workforce to care for kids or aging parents, we see a nearly 15% drop in earnings after just 1 year. And that drop in earnings grows to nearly 50% if they stay out for 3 or more years. Women respond differently to the marketing messages and tactics of the financial services industry. Research shows that when people hear financial jargon, both men and women get confused. Men, however, tend not to let that confusion bother them, whereas for women, it really turns them off the subject. Money matters are generally stressful for both genders. If there's one piece of financial advice I'd highlight, it would be Krawcheck's observation that women need to save first, harder, and faster. Or as I like to say, the 3 most powerful words in all of personal finance are, start saving now. And finally, let's take a look at the markets. The Mexican peso increased 0.05% to 18.53 from 18.54 in the previous trading session. The peso changed down 0.44% during the last week, down 6.13% during the last month, but was up 12.12% during the last year. Mexico's IPC index increased 0.16% to 48,431 from 48,352 in the previous trading session. Mexico's IPC index changed up 0.68% during the last week, was up 1.37% during the last month, and was up 7.54% during the last year. This was all for today. Thank you for staying with us. I'm your host, Elliot Bullman. And remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Log on to MexicoNewsNetwork.com for more information on Mexico and the world. Until next time.